I'm Annoushka Dukas, and I've been designing jewellery for 30 years and collecting charms for as long as I can remember. In this podcast, I will be asking a series of extraordinary women to tell me their life story in 7 charms. Welcome to my podcast, My Life in 7 Charms. Clare Smyth, welcome to Your Life in 7 Charms. So your first charm, you obviously loved riding. So
Yes.
I guess this charm is all about your horse riding. So I've really designed it as a 3-dimensional hat made of yellow gold inside, but set with black diamonds in multi kind of pave shapes. And it has a little gold strap which will move, because I'm fanatical about the things if they'll actually work. Be beautifully polished on the inside, so it'll be a lovely charm. And it clearly is about riding. But can you just tell me a little bit about growing up and your childhood?
Yeah, I mean, horse riding was really important to me, show jumping in particular.
Right.
And I mean, grew up on a farm in Northern Ireland, and we competed. You know, I would have had 2 ponies at a time.
Oh, wow.
And it was quite a lot of work, exercising them, competing, training them. And, you know, my brother and I both rode and competed against each other, even though he's quite a lot older than me. But it was just a big part of my life and childhood. And I think if I hadn't have been a chef, I would have been a show jumper. Yeah, we were quite into it, you know, and I was quite competitive. And it was, I always think back on my childhood and think, why did I, you know, end up the way I did? And then I do think, you know, people think about a male dominated world. Well, in horse riding, you compete against men, equal. And so I think I grew up in an environment where I never really thought about girls and boys being not equal or different, because I competed alongside my brother.
Yeah. Who was better?
Well, he was that bit older, but people used to get upset when he didn't let me win. But we used to win a lot, and we were very much, that was what we did. And it was always about that competition and being the best as well. So I think that edge of always succeeding, and that was important to me.
And you grew up in Northern Ireland. Was that tough at that time with all the troubles and that? Were you aware of that?
I was, and I think because I grew up with it, I just didn't know any different. And it wasn't until I had moved to England, so I realised that, you know, police stations aren't all covered in pub wire. You don't see soldiers with guns walking down the street. Although I lived in the countryside, it didn't impact me so much. We were very aware of it around us. And I remember sitting in school and hearing, you know, the nearest town get blown up. No one was hurt, because those days I think they did it for more rebuilding those towns, but it was part of growing up. A bit of this odd thing when I think about it now, and how strange it is, and how good that it has changed so much, because it's just the most bizarre thing to have literally your neighbours.
Yeah, no, it must be.
It makes no sense at all.
Yeah, and but so extraordinary that you didn't realise how strange it was until you moved away.
Yeah.
But was your mother a good cook?
Yes, yeah. It was very much the foundation, I guess, of knowing how to cook, eat, appreciate food, and appreciate how it's produced as well. The work, you know, the 365 days of the year, 24 hours a day, often, you know, lambing season with sheep. You know, you're up all night checking, and that never stops with farming. That responsibility. But it was really the artistic side that took my attention, and it was Michelin stars really that because I was quite creative.
Were you creative at school, though?
Yes.
Creative in terms, because I'm fascinated, I really want to talk about this, the creative process. So I'm so interested, because as a jeweller, my process is very different to most, because I didn't train. So I'm like, okay, I'm really not very good at drawing, but I'm absolutely clear in my head what it's got to be. So I'm kind of fascinated by what your process is in creating a new dish.
I try to use humble ingredients now, coming from a luxury background in through Michelin-starred restaurants.
Yeah.
I've worked in for 15 years before I opened my own. So I wanted to be challenged, to be creative with something that's a bit more, say, humble, like the signature dish is a potato.
I know, yeah.
And it is that thing about, can I take something and turn it into something spectacular with my creativity, and also to have a connection to people, to really mean something. And that connection is the most powerful thing. That I love to play nods to culture. We've got an onion dish, it's cheese and onion, but it's very beautifully put together.
But the bit about the beautifully put together, because I know it beautifully put together, because John took me for our wedding anniversary, so I absolutely know how beautiful it is. But do you kind of draw it first? Do you sketch it? Do you just play with the potato and the moss and how do you go about it?
I used to draw the dishes.
Did you?
Yeah. I used to, when I worked for Alain Ducasse, when I was working in Monaco, I would think a lot about the dishes. Wow. And because it wasn't my restaurant and it wasn't my input, I used to draw everything and write down all my ideas in a scrapbook.
Right. And then present to him?
No, there's just no way that would ever happen. It's fair enough. It's someone else's vision for so I used to keep them all for myself until I had that outlet of being head chef, and then start to develop my own dishes. And then they obviously take a complete transformation from the idea to the actual dish.
Yeah.
Now I kind of, in my mind, I very much have a bank of flavor bank. I think that's something that's really important. You taste everything all the time. I'm very, very curious.
Yeah.
It's like this palette that I have to be able to use. I'll think, right, well, that flavor could work with that, or I'll put that with that. And it's you years and years of tasting good, bad, everything, and building up that almost that library or in your palette, and thinking, I'll put those together. So it's both those flavors that you're trying to achieve and the way something looks. And I quite like nature. I love flowers. Like, flowers are just something, I love the different forms and colours. So I think it's like trying to arrange something to come back to nature, to its natural environment.
So interesting. And you, in terms of kind of flavours, is it anything, I'm sure there must be, but do you occasionally think, actually, that'll work really well together, and actually when you put it together, it's just disgusting, or is that not a thing? No, it's not a thing.
Yeah, it's about levels.
Yeah.
And I think flavours, I like elegance. I like things that are layered and layered and layered. So I think it's, when you think of it, it's sort of classical music.
Yeah.
It's something that's lots and lots of parts playing together in harmony. And that's like the ultimate food to me. I'm not someone that's... one of my friends calls it dudes cooking food, where it's like meat and
dudes
sauce.
Cooking food.
Yeah, meat and sauce, and everything's like bam, bam, bam. Yeah, okay, it's great, but there's a lot of that, and it's like course after course after course. It's like, it's too much. I prefer elegance and to build through the meal, and to have a nice procession all the way through it.
I love what you just said about music, because one of your charms, you said it was really important that it was 2 musical notes which can move. Quite challenging, I've got to say. I'm like, okay, how am I going to do that in a charm? But I love all my charms to move. So, actually, I was like, this is actually quite a challenge. But it's very difficult to describe. But I've seen it with a treble clef at the beginning. But it's going to have gold wires coming from the treble clef, gold wires kind of in a wave. And then it's got 2 notes in black diamonds and set into black and gold. And actually there is a way on the other side so that they can move along the wires. But so in fact, when you pick it up, you should be able to move them. But it is a challenge.
Yeah.
Just tell me music, because obviously music's really important. I remember going and in the restaurant, the music's very specific, and I'm kind of like, tell me about that.
Yeah, I think I try to create an atmosphere so that it's everything about the experience, and music's a very important part of the experience of when people go out. Through Michelin-starred restaurant, people can think, well, it's really intimidating, and to me, it's like, I need to get rid of all of that.
Yeah.
Anything that people consider as pretentious, because You just want people to have a good time, feel at home, feel connected to the food. There's some kind of connection, nostalgia. They feel comfortable. There's a good tune on. The team are really friendly. There's not words on the menu that people don't understand.
And the other thing I thought was I read that when you go and do talks or you're talking on stage, you get them to put Maria by Blondie. What's that about?
I do have a few walk-on tunes. I do, and I like The Pretenders as well. Brass in Pocket, that's another favourite tune of mine. It's like those life, you know, it's kind of like when you work really hard and you start to do well in life.
Yeah.
You know, there's those girl tunes, they're like, you know, it's like, yeah, you know, I'm doing well. I'm gonna use it
rocking
now.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think those are, they're good tunes.
Well, this is probably a good place to talk a bit about music in the restaurant. And I think I'm right in saying that you like a very silent kitchen.
I like perfection, and I think that you must have silence and concentration. It should be like a ballet. No one should speak out of turn or bang things or, you know, drop things. So we have this service that we go into and it's just complete silence. You know, it's much less stressful. Everyone can communicate at a level. You know, they say something, someone says yes back. No one like drops something or banging spoons on pans. It's just nothing. And we focus, we concentrate, you put something down gently, and it's a much nicer working environment.
And does it take new members of staff quite a time to get used to that? Because are you very unusual in that respect, or have things changed?
I think things have changed quite a lot.
Right.
And kitchens are very different places today than they used to be.
Yeah.
But, you know, I remember when I was working with Gordon and when I kind of started to change things from my own sort of way, or I grew into my own shoes a little bit. He used to feel a little bit unnerved when he came into the kitchen. It was so quiet.
Well, yeah, I bet he was.
Completely out of place.
I bet he was. Just talking about Gordon, because as I said to you, I definitely spoke to a lot of these chefs. And so I'm kind of interested to know maybe it wasn't him, maybe it was one of the other extraordinary people you've worked with, but kind of, what was your memory of the worst thing that anybody said to you? One of those chefs. You don't have to tell me which one, but you can.
Yeah, I mean, like, Gordon was fantastic, always really good to me. When I just remember the story because it's actually probably, you'll recognise this kind of story. I was doing a trial shift and I was 17 years old in a London Michelin-starred restaurant, and I hadn't quite turned 18. But I was turning 18 soon, and the chef said to me, well, you know, I'll give you a job, but we'll start you in the pastry because you'll probably leave anyway because you won't handle it. And he had said, what did I want to be? And I said, well, I want to be like the chef of a top London restaurant or hotel. And he said, well, that's probably not going to happen because you're a woman. What? And so I didn't go to work there, but that guy was veg supplier. He had ended up having his own veg company.
He was a veg supplier?
And then ended up supplying me when I first took over at Restaurant Gordon Ramsay as the head chef.
Yeah.
And I was 28 years old. I came back from France and I was the first woman to run a 3 Michelin-star kitchen in London. He was my veg supplier.
Did he remember saying that?
No, he didn't. And I've never told him the story. And I sat down in front of him when I came back from France and he was so shocked. And he was like, oh, you know, like, what, you're a woman? I was like 28 and he was just shocked that, but it was just those things. So I think things like that fueled me in my life.
Well,
and I actually thought to myself then, you've got 1 Michelin star, you can get 3. I went then to work for Gordon and he was incredibly supportive. You know,
was he?
Incredibly
From
supportive.
the beginning?
From the beginning. A great mentor. And, you know, often being the only woman in the kitchen, he just recognised talent.
I want to take a quick moment to say thank you to our sponsor, Rome. I was recently introduced to this brilliant new skincare brand, and I've got to say, I'm already a big fan. Their clinically backed formulas are smart, simple, and seriously effective. Using the latest biotechnology,
Rome pairs the best of nature with groundbreaking science. No fuss, no overthinking, just well-made, purposeful formulas that really deliver. It's honestly changed the way I think about looking after my skin. We're proud to be partnering with a brand that shares our outlook. Authentic, curious, and always pushing for better. So thank you, Rome, not just for supporting this podcast, but for proving that skincare doesn't need to be complicated to be meaningful.
I've got your second charm as a knife, gorgeous knife, and you sent me a picture of this actually, so it was really helpful. I hope I've done it justice. So I've made it in white gold with exactly very heavily polished blade. Not too sharp because I don't want it to hurt you if it's around your neck, but three-dimensional, and the handle has got different sized black diamonds, different size because it gives it a really lovely texture. And the end is also just in white gold with a little bit of texture on the handle. But what's the significance of the knife?
I think, I mean, it's kind of ironic. You've made it with sort of black diamonds, and it's beautiful because it is the least expensive knife.
I had to do it in black diamonds.
Yeah,
It's just
well, I mean, and yet it's the most valuable knife that I have, and I have knives that are made by hand with in Japan, with one of the top 5 sort of knife makers has made me my own bespoke knives. But that knife, it cost probably about £3.50 at the time, but I've had it my whole career, so it's been everywhere with me, and there's almost no blade left on it. And it was a thing about respect. When I was working in Monaco, I left it there by accident when I did my trial, and the sous chef was Japanese. And I'd been working in rough kitchens, and it was a bit of push and shove. But he gave it to me, and he had it professionally sharpened. It's really an inexpensive knife. Had it professionally sharpened, tied up with a piece of paper, 2 little strings tying it together, and put it into a little vacuum packed bag. And when he saw me, 3 months later, he gave it to me and said, "You left this here." And I just thought, how refreshing to be like that.
Yeah, to be
so respectful.
I also love your description of the way he wrapped it and put it so Japanese, so perfect, wasn't it? Absolutely. So do you still use this knife?
It is, yeah, it's in my drawer. I still use it very rarely because it is so there's nothing left of it.
But and did you buy that as you arrived in England, or did you have that as a child?
This would have been my journey with me since I was sort of at restaurant Gordon Ramsay from about the age of 22 through Monaco till now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's such a lovely thing. And as you say, a cheap knife, but precious. So we'll make it precious. So your next charm, well, that was really obvious, obviously, that it's an apple core, and such a joy to make this. So I see it as exactly that, and a 3-dimensional apple core made of very textured yellow gold, so that it's not, the core part is not totally shiny. 2 little brown diamonds, which are the pips, and then red rubies, pavé at the top and bottom, and it's just got a little gold leaf that moves as if it's just come off the tree. So clearly that's for your restaurant core. Tell me a bit about why core. Why is it called core? And you've touched a bit on the philosophy behind the simplicity of the food, but it's not as simple as you make out. But why core?
It was. It's hard to find a name for something. I think it's always very hard. I was racking my brains, and I often come up with things when I can't sleep at night because I'm thinking so much about it. And it came to me at night when I was supposed to be sleeping overnight. I'll mull things over in my brain and weigh it up. And I'm in a difficult situation and need to find an answer. And it was core because it means heart in lots of languages.
Right.
And it was the core, the heart, the seed of something new.
Right.
So it's very much about that new beginning, that heart and soul. And then it became core. So
And your kind of logo is the thumbprint, isn't it?
yes, yeah, it's one of the things that has really come through now in the restaurant is that identity.
Yes.
And I love natural form, so we see patterns and everything, whether it's in leaves, in obviously trees, and that was an important thing. But obviously, thumbprint is unique, the uniqueness of a human being. Every human being is unique, and it's that nature and the beauty of nature. And so it became a part of the restaurant. And also the bit of the joke was, always wiping fingerprints off plates.
Yeah.
And I put my fingerprint on it.
Yeah. Or you put your fingerprint on it. And the philosophy behind it was that to go back to simple food. But it's not simple.
Yeah, so it was, I worked, because I'd been in that world of 3 Michelin-starred restaurants for 15 years solid before I opened Core, and they were always French. And I could write a menu, with everything that was required for that. But it didn't, of course I could do it, but it didn't mean anything to me. That's someone else's food. That's what you do or what people do. Same thing with the music. It's what people do. And I thought, well, that doesn't really mean anything to me. Right. And I had a lot of questions that had been bubbling in my career, like, what's my style? What does it mean to me? What my connect to? So Britain was, I'm British. I'm not French.
Yeah.
Well, I've cooked classically French food all my life. I'm like, well, I'm British. So, I grew up eating potatoes every day. We have root vegetables and shellfish and fish, and we're an island, and all those things, and really connect with what I had around me. And then I started to look at everything, like, silversmiths, British silversmiths, the potteries, all these areas, because we were just always buying things with a brand on it, It's like you buy the most expensive cutlery with a French name. That's what chefs do, still do it. But because it's the most expensive. Or
Why is that? Sorry to interrupt, but why do they think that?
It's fine, beautiful, fine things, and that is, I think, you typically think that's what you have to do to get Michelin stars, but actually it's got nothing to do with it. We had wooden tables, silversmiths from the UK. I designed my own plates. Yeah. Half of it was as well, couldn't really afford to buy the most expensive plates. Right. But I thought it would be better that actually I have my own. So when you look at a plate from Core, it's Core. And having that identity is really important. And so also sustainability, I always think like economic sustainability and cultural sustainability is really important. So you'd have like Stoke-on-Trent, you have all these potteries and areas where it's just gone, and all these skills that we're losing, the beautiful silversmiths that we have in this country, and the skill is stunning. People that make things by hand, I really appreciate. Yeah. And I thought, well, I've got to support it. I've got to reinvest it, make it cool again. Yeah. And let's face it, Britain was built off of steel industries, and we've just lost it all. And we need to put industries back into those places within Britain. Yeah. So I'd rather do that. Yeah, work with those, companies like Royal Crown Derby make my plates, and they design plates. It's a 300-year-old company. It's incredible history. Yeah. So that's important to me. So everything, the furniture, everything's made in Britain. All the art is British artists in the restaurant, and it's that identity. So when people travel, they know where they are. Sense of place is important.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish everybody was doing that, because it's, as you say, silversmithing here is becoming a dying art. Yeah. And it really is. Such a shame. Now, one of my kind of questions is, how did you fund it, Cool? Because, I know a little bit about kitchens and how incredibly expensive they are, particularly of the calibre that you need.
Yeah. So I was very fortunate in that Gordon was very supportive of me, and very few people know this, but so I had profit shares in Royal Hospital Road, which was a phenomenally successful restaurant. Right. So I was able to save an awful lot, and I always thought when I was working, God, if I could own this, you know.
This would be all my Christmases all at once.
And I was, you know, when I first took it over, I became chef patron there, and Gordon made me a partner.
You did that just after you got Michelin star, was it? The 3?
No, because, well, that already was 3 stars. So
Yeah.
I took it over, and he said to me, well, you can put your name in the door. I said, why would I want to do that? If I'm having shares in this, I want your name in the door. You're the most famous chef in the world. So I'm...
Very clever.
So
yeah.
and then I decided I want to do my own thing anyway, because I wanted to prove myself, I think, to myself.
Yeah.
And then I continued to consult for Gordon for quite a while and build everything into my own business as a consultant. And then he also, he lent me money and sat me down with his accountant or his bank manager. And we had meetings with the banks. He put me all the right places. And incredibly good to me. And so he said, you can, you know, no interest. I don't need anything signed. Just start paying me back in about 3 years. And so I did really well my first year, and I paid him everything back in the first year.
Wow. Because I think I've had Angela Hartnett on this podcast actually, and she said Claire has an amazing ability to look after her staff. That's what she said.
It's very nice.
So I'm like, so how do you do that? Because hospitality is not, it doesn't have a reputation for that.
No, it gets harder and harder, I think, as well. But you just have to work so hard on them. It's really like training, invest in them. I like looking after people, but yeah, I'm also quite a practical person. I like to get things done.
Yeah.
So I'm less of the chit chat and more of the get it done.
So speaking of getting it done, so your next charm is obviously the Michelin star. So I have done it exactly the same shape, but quite. So when you put your finger into it, it feels like your finger belongs there, which I thought was kind of rather lovely for you if you've got your fingerprint. So it's polished gold on the back with your initials, 3 stars engraved, and then a combination of kind of red and pink rubies and sapphires, all slightly different shaped. Mainly because I think it gives it a bit more life than just having it all red. But for everybody else's purpose, it's clearly a Michelin star. So did you know, at what point in your life did you think, that's what I'm going to do? I want a restaurant, or I want to earn 3 Michelin stars?
So I was 14, 15 when I knew I wanted to be a chef. When I first found out about Michelin stars, or my head was turned maybe by, first book was Anton Mosselmann's Cuisine à la carte, when he was at the Dorchester, and I was looking through, that would be 5-star hotels, you know, the real glamour.
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of got swept away by the idea of becoming a chef with all these beautiful pictures of food and these people in big tall hats. And that's why it was very much the creative side and I knew I needed to come to London to have that.
Yeah.
And then also learned about Michelin and that sort of grading, and you know, it's still the most respected grading in the world of professional inspectors. And so I only wanted to work really in 3-star restaurants, because I thought if I can do that, and if I can put myself into the most difficult environments, and I can succeed, then I'll give myself the best chance. Now, I never thought, I'll try to get 3 stars. I just hoped that I would be successful if I worked in the best places.
Yeah, well, clearly you were right. But just out of interest, I have no idea what the process is for getting a star. Do you apply, or how does it work?
I think you can notify them that you're opening a restaurant. It's quite a good thing to do. And then it's their own guide, so they do what they want, really. I mean, they'll book a table, they'll come in.
And you won't have a clue?
No, they'll eat.
No suspicion?
I kind of know quite a lot of them now, to be fair. I've been around a few years.
Yeah, but generally, no suspicion.
No. And actually, you know, often I really do miss them as well, because at a 3-star level, they'll use international inspectors as well.
Right.
And you can get expected up to 3 times a year or 6 times a year, I think it is, for a 3-star restaurant. Now, if they're very confident in you, that won't happen. But it's a big investment on their part, actually, because, you know, they're coming, eating and paying, and the inspectors. And they, I mean, I know this because I went to Paris when I was working for Gordon, had a meeting with them, and they can pull out a file of your restaurant and everything is in it, like everything, like
what?
this turbot that they ate in, 2012 was overseasoned or undercooked, or people writing letters to them. They have a flat fact thing on you of everything. So they're like, their whole job is watching what we're doing.
But not just on the night.
Oh, yeah, but that's over years, obviously. Yeah, but they'll look at everything around it. People will write letters to Michelin if they're not happy, if they're happy. They'll judge everything on their own merit, on their own criteria.
Right.
But they keep all of that. And if they start to see something's maybe not right, they'll go and check again.
Yeah.
Or if they start to think, well, something's going really right here, we better look at this a little bit more.
Yeah.
And that's all on their own things. And they don't talk to you. Sometimes you'll have a conversation. Sometimes they'll say, can we have a meeting? But it's very rare. Actually, when we won the 3rd star, I didn't speak to them at all. And it was online because it was during COVID.
But it was so quick.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you opened 2018.
Yeah, so we would have... Yeah, so August 2017, and by January 2021, yeah, we had it, yeah. We got it.
Gosh.
Yeah, so we was, which is great, obviously. It was fast, but then, I say that I had spent a long time working at that level previously, and a lot of my team did as well. We had a very, very good team. But like I said, all the luxuries were just, graft and ability and, and it was a fresh perspective because people thought I was a bit crazy when I opened because we weren't serving, lobster, sauté foie gras, all those things you would typically think you would find in a fine dining restaurant and playing a 1940s jazz that no one understands or, we weren't doing those things.
No white tablecloths.
No white tablecloths. We were doing things... I would do it not differently because I hate when people say that because no one ever does
different approach.
Different. Yeah, just my own approach.
Yeah,
things that connect with me.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it worked. But I just kept reinvesting the whole time, getting it better and better and better. And I knew the level I needed to be at. So really kicking ourselves. We got the 3rd star, the 2nd star, the first. So we missed the first year because we were just a little bit open too late. So we got the 2 stars straight away then, the next year. And,
And then COVID.
And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
We were only 2 years old at that stage.
Like, oh, my God.
Which is just, I was thinking, have I got enough money to pay back the bank loan? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
But we managed all through that. But it is that thing about always looking at yourself and look what you're doing and thinking, how can I polish? And we just kept polishing it and really looking at it ourselves. Because I was thinking, that's not quite right. I'm not happy with that. And just kept going and then till it came.
How long have you been married for now?
10 years coming up. It'll be 10 years next year.
And how did you... I'm fascinated how you even met, how you had time to meet.
Yeah, so we met. It was funny, actually, that saying about time. We met in a bar in South Kensington, and he got my number. It's a bar that's...
Hang on, you were in the bar just...
Cocktail bar.
Randomly.
Yeah, I think we had mutual friends.
Right.
And this cocktail bar was famous for its watermelon martinis.
Right.
Very good, actually.
Yeah.
And he had my number. And so there was interest, but I wouldn't reply to him for a whole week.
Right.
And it was like, because I went to work.
Yeah.
And I went to work we worked Monday to Friday, and we worked to work like probably 6, 7 a.m. on a Monday and wouldn't finish till like 2 a.m. on a Friday. And there was just no time. Never thought about. And so he thought it was really weird, but he didn't know what I did.
Oh, he didn't know what you did?
But he knew I worked in a restaurant.
Right.
And then, probably a few weeks down the line, went on a first date. And he thought I was a waitress. I was a head chef at a restaurant called Ramsay at this stage. And he took me to this Thai place, Fulham, that like powdered cocktails and like and stuff. And I said, I'll never... I said, okay. So after dinner, I said, just one thing, you're just never picking a restaurant again if we go out.
No pressure.
Yeah.
You told him at this point what you were doing.
Yeah, but he didn't.
But you're not a foodie.
He knew like then, yeah. But it was very good because actually he loves food and he eats everything, which is quite handy.
Well, it's quite handy, but presumably when you go home, you're not cooking.
I tend to cook.
Do you?
Yeah, because I just like it. And I actually, it's a terrible thing, I probably don't cook that much at work.
Ah, right, okay.
I
So
create things, I've got that vision for things, but the guys do all the cooking, and actually quite nice cooking at home.
okay,
Put the music on, glass of wine.
yeah. The charm that I've designed to represent your husband is, I have a whole spinning series of charms. So this one, it's in a frame, gold frame, and inside it's heart shape with South Africa or Africa engraved into it, and a little ruby in South Africa where I think you got married. Is that
We
right?
got engaged in Kenya, and my husband, actually born in Zimbabwe, grew up in South Africa. But yeah, engaged. Africa's a fascination for me. I love Africa, safaris, and
And am I right in thinking that you had quite an amusing time when he proposed to you?
yes,
Which
yeah.
was- Tell me about
So
that.
we were on holiday in Kenya, and on the last night, he had decided he was going to propose. And during the trip, we had met this older couple called, I think it was Colin and Carol. And and he had proposed and he was ready. We were sitting down by the river, and those hippos in there snorting and flapping their tails about. And we were drinking a Tusk lager, and he was going to propose that night. And I said, oh, by the way, it was our last night. And he said, by the way, Colin and Carol are joining us for dinner. And he's just like, what? And it was, so then it was like, well, that was it. And he had to do it right there and then.
That is so
it was,
funny. With the hippo in the background.
Yeah, farting and,
Oh, just that is so funny.
Yeah.
So do you spend a bit of time in South Africa now?
More, I guess, round Africa, or that sort of area, Botswana, Zambia, Tanzania, Kenya, like all of those countries. I think, I love Africa. It's one of the places I feel the most content. We did Rwanda last year.
Oh, did you go and see the gorillas?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is so.
Fabulous.
Did it make you cry?
Fascinating.
Me too. I was just like, when we went in, I did literally about a week-old baby.
So cute.
It just made me cry.
So adorable.
Yeah.
But it connects. I think Africa warms my soul, and I think that it is something about it that I feel very connected to nature, and maybe because I grew up in farms and stuff. But I feel like that's where we feel a part of the world, where you're nothing. You're not important. You're just part of all of this. And the magnificence of all these animals and nature is just something. I feel at peace.
Now, your the last charm that I've done is you said a Ferrari. So I'm like, yeah, woman after my own heart. Well, what's with the Ferrari?
I just love cars. I've always loved cars.
Speed.
Probably the look, actually.
Okay.
And I like speed. I like the sound of nice cars, but it is the beauty of cars and the forms. And it's something I've always bought the best car that I could afford. It's always been a thing for me. Passion that I've had.
So, I mean, a joy to make a charm as a Ferrari, because it will be a perfect miniature for Rosso Fuoco Ferrari. So obviously it's going to be rubies.
Yeah.
It's going to be rubies. I've got yellow wheels that spin perfectly, all four spin. The doors open.
Wow.
And when you turn it upside down, it will have the kind of exhaust and the shape of the exhaust, etc. So it'll be, and the windows will be made of rock crystal. So you should be able to kind of run it along the desk or run it along the table.
Okay.
But is that, I'm kind of interested by that, because I was like, because I love cars and speed and all of that. But for me, it's the design and the speed. But is that a way for you to kind of let off steam? Would you ever gone on a kind of driving? You can't really go anywhere here because you can't go fast enough, basically.
Yeah, we do. That's why. I mean, actually, recently, some friends of mine, last year, actually this year in June, we went over to gastronomic driving trip that we did
In France.
Yeah, going to 3-star restaurants, driving around. What a 3-star restaurant is worth a special journey, and the whole Michelin guide obviously is to drive to those places.
Yeah.
So we did that, and actually it's something we want to do every year now.
When you do that, do you tell them you're coming?
Yeah, yeah.
You do.
We have lots of friends. I mean, it's such
Everybody
world.
knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the cars thing is just, I've always just there's something about, and then of course for me it was that the passion of the Ferrari and what that means, and I think people.
What that means, is that just about a success?
Yeah, but I think it's more than that. And I think that, with Ferrari, they say it's a passion that has to be lived to be understood. And I really think that is, you have to live it to understand it.
Claire, what's next? I mean, I'm like, what can you do next?
I have a couple of restaurants coming up.
Oh my goodness, here?
Yeah, London. So the one here is going to be a luxury bistro. So more traditional food.
Right.
But I want it
Traditional.
British, maybe a little bit Frenchish, but more sort of a bistro food with really good products, done just executed very well, really tidy. And I want to have sort of more ornate, beautiful plates. And I want the interior to be very comfortable, because I feel like sitting amongst all those beautiful furniture shops in Pimlico, you want to feel a part of that environment.
Yeah.
It's quite important. And we're going to have a really good wine list. Wine's really important to me. Like I've invested heavily in wine over the years. It's such an important part of the restaurant. To have everything really good in a restaurant. We've made our own wine now as well.
What's it going to be called?
Cornucopia.
Oh. Okay, so why?
Obviously core, but we're spelled core first.
Yeah.
So we put the E in it.
Yeah.
Cornucopia, because it is going to be that plentiful, that what's the horn of plenty. It means bountiful and luxurious, and that's going to be like, I just feel like that's what we're going to throw everything at it to make it like, this is like, the best stuff. I have lots of stuff, and I feel like it's going to be, that. Like I say, the beautiful complement of a very creative restaurant, but you also feel like sometimes just having a Dover sole grilled, and I do, certainly. I love
Definitely.
and and just like a lemon meringue pie, or sometimes a rice pudding, or just simple, really well cooked dishes with beautiful ingredients, and a great wine list, and all the things that you could possibly want to have. We want to have them.
I wish you lots of luck with it, and I can't wait for it to open, actually. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and learning a bit about your incredible career.
Thank you.
Now, as a thank you, I would like to make you one of these charms.
Wow.
So I wonder which one it's going to be.
Do I have to make my mind up?
Yeah, you do.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
God, they're so beautiful. I don't know if it's the apple core. It's a hard one because they're so cool. The apple core, I think, has to be, I would say the Michelin star, but I don't feel that, I think that the star is something, obviously, but the core is just, it's...
well, the core's, say no more. It's that is
the heart of something.
The heart of something, and something that you've worked towards for so long.
Thank you.
No, it's an
incredible.
absolute
They're just
pleasure.
Beautiful.
Thank you very, very much.
How are you? Well, great to see you. Awesome.
Anyway, look, so here we go.
Oh, thank you. The reveal.
The reveal, the big reveal.
Oh, wow. How stunning. It's so delicate and so beautiful.
So
Look at
they're green sapphirites, 18-karat gold, and tiny little orange sapphires, which are the pips.
The precision in creating that is just insane, isn't it? The colour's just great, isn't it? It's like, bam. But it's just so gorgeous. Thank you so much. Yeah, so my charm is an apple core after my restaurant, which is like, to me, was the heart and the seed of something new. And for Annoushka to be able to recreate that in such a delicate piece of jewellery is just something really, really special and, yeah, quite emotional, really. For me, it's something was a new beginning, a seed of something new, and it's something now that's just so, so beautiful and so elegant.
Thank you for joining us on My Life in Charms. If today's conversation has inspired you to reflect on your own story, begin your Life in Charms journey at Annoushka.com or email bespoke@Annoushka.com. And don't forget to follow or subscribe to hear more extraordinary stories told in jewels.